back to Read, Rant, and Review. We are here to talk about a book today called The Girl of Fire and Thorns. And today I have Anish with me because this book is odd and I don't know how to feel about it. Thank you. Not tough. Let me sit there. Let's read the back. Once a century, one person is chosen for greatness. Elisa is the chosen one. But she is also the younger of two princesses, the one who has never done anything remarkable. She can't see how she ever will. Now, on her 16th birthday, she has become the secret wife of a handsome and worldly king, a king whose country is in turmoil, a king who needs a chosen one, not a failure of a princess. And he's not the only one who seeks her. Savage enemies, seething with dark magic, are hunting her. A daring, determined revolutionary thinks she could be his people's savior. And he looks at her in a way that no man has ever looked at her before. Soon it is not just her life, but her very heart that is at stake. Elisa could be everything to those who need her most, if the prophecy is fulfilled, if she finds the power deep within herself, if she doesn't die young. Most of the chosen do. Boom, boom, boom. So, just from the back of the book, The Girl of Fire and Thorns is piled with cliches. We've got the chosen one cliche. Yeah, that's always there. We've got the arranged marriage, but she falls in love with some other guy cliche. We've got the younger, overshadowed one who hasn't done anything but is suddenly chosen cliche. It's swimming in cliches. But, and here's a big but, I actually kind of enjoyed this book. The characters and some of the situations are a lot more unpredictable than the cliches would have you believe. And so I actually did find enjoyment in it, and actually a few things did manage to surprise me. For the most part, it seemed to me like most of the side characters felt like real people. I mean, they weren't the most developed, but I could see them as real people. I could put them in situations and have a reasonable guess as to what they would do. So I do love that there is nary a white person to be seen in this story. The heroine and her culture seem to be Latin, Spanish in some way. I don't know if that is like Mexican flavor or Spain flavor, I guess. I don't know. I'm probably being horribly racist right now. It's unintentional. I apologize. But I was interested because it seemed to me to strike me as a little bit like Mexican culture, and I was curious to know if this book and the story had anything to do with Mexican culture, because there is a strong overtone of religious belief throughout, and many Mexicans are Catholic. And there is a god that she worships, a single god who is male, and so I thought that it might be leaning a bit towards that. I can't really tell. I can't really find anything that is necessarily directly linked to like Mexican culture or Mexican mythology, at least not to the mainstream stuff that I know. So I didn't delve too deep into this, so if you have read this book and you know what it's borrowing from, please let me know, because I am really interested. The main thing about Elisa is that she has what's called a god stone, which is placed in her belly button for some reason. It's like part of her body, never explained, magic, gods, whatever, that marks her as God's chosen one. I have had a lot of people upset because of like the Christian themes, but I actually don't think that this is actually a Christian god in the story. There is a god, and it is male, that she worships, a single god, but I don't think it is the same one. So anyway, she is chosen of God, and she has a stone in her belly button for reasons, which it can help her sometimes, like it turns cold when she detects enemies. Yeah. The other thing I found really great and interesting about this book, besides the utter lack of white people, is that our main character is overweight. And in the beginning, quite overweight. It's never like explicitly stated, but it is stated that she like can't see her feet essentially, because she's just bosoms, stomach in the way. So that's interesting. I found that refreshing that there would be an overweight main character, especially female one. Overall, the story follows a pretty predictable formula, but throughout there are places where smaller events and characters that you meet can surprise you and can keep the story from being boring. People die in this book. often you can't predict who, or at least I didn't predict who, so that's good. There's surprises. I kind of dug that we had the experience of a religious person who is not always like the best that they can be, but also never becomes completely disillusioned with their faith. I don't know. I kind of like that. It was interesting. Some people might find it frustrating. I like that the strength that I'm not really sure. The strength that Elisa brings to the table is her mind, her strategic thinking, and her ability to like plan. It is a little bit harder to believe that she's got such good like strategy powers, because all she did was read books about it. She's never actually like been to war. She essentially has read like their culture's version of the art of war and stuff like that, and so I think part of it is just that her brain is wired that way, to think in a tactical way, and then the other part is that she has a little bit of learning from these books, and then also convenience, because she's the main character of the story. But it is nice to see a woman being valued for her brain. Thank you. Women can be excellent generals and great tactical leaders too, although probably they should do more than just read a book about it. Maybe. However, even though we have a non-cliche with a woman who's valued for her mind and her tactical leadership prowess, we have another cliche in that she gets kidnapped a bit more than I would like in this book, although she does get herself out of it at least once. But yeah, kidnapped quite a bit. Boo. There's a lot of walking and traveling in this book, which I think some people can find boring, and I even got a little bit bored by it at times. I didn't mind too much, but it's a very travel-y book. They go a lot of places on foot or with camels, because it's a desert. Elisa does have a character arc and character development. I wish that it was a little bit deeper and that her character was just a little bit deeper. Her character I actually found the least interesting of all of the characters. I found some side characters more interesting, actually, but Elisa does have an arc and she does grow and learn. Unfortunately, that is also problematically tied with weight loss, because in the story, slight spoiler here, she ends up in a place where she can't eat the way that she was used to, and she's sort of basically forcibly put on a diet and exercise routine by the new lifestyle that she has to deal with. Whatever, that's fine. She never becomes skinny. She's always curvy, but she becomes a lot skinnier. And unfortunately, that is also the time where she goes through the most character growth, which does make sense because she has been thrown into this new environment where she has to thrive or die, essentially. And so her character growth would come here at the same time as her weight loss, but that is problematic because it seems to say that if you lose weight, you will become better. The message is there, it's subtly under the surface. I don't think it was intended, but it's there. At least her romantic interest fancies her when he first sees her, when she's heavier, and it's not all about her being like skinny and pretty. At least there's that. Unfortunately, you don't really understand why he likes her at the beginning. It's possible that he realizes that she's like the chosen one and is attracted to that, which I guess is a thing to be attracted to, but it is kind of random. He's just like, I fancy you. The world in this book was interesting and I wanted to know more about it, about its culture, about the different, like, just the place. Like, they're in the desert at some point and they're in a jungle at some point, but I want to know a lot more about this world and how it works, and unfortunately it's never really explained, and that's very left on the surface and very shallow, and that made me a little bit sad. I never felt terribly immersed in this world. Like, some worlds will just draw you in and you feel like you're there. I never felt terribly immersed in this world, even though there are lots of descriptions, especially of food. This author likes to describe food, which makes sense to me because you are following Elisa and food matters to her, so she would notice food and describe food more than, say, other things. So that doesn't bother me. Also, I was raised on Brian Jakes, and man, can that man describe food. I also really want to know more about the Godstones and how they work. It's frustratingly hinted at and like tantalizingly, like you find out little things and you're like, oh, ooh, that's cool, or ooh, I wonder why that is, but you never get the big answers, and it makes me mad. But this is part of a series, so go figure. Hopefully eventually people get answers as the series goes on. The ending of this book was a little bit random and came a little bit out of left field. I mean, you saw the basic overview of it coming, but the way that it ended and the way that she won the day was odd, and then very, very hastily wrapped up with everything working out exactly the way that it needs to work out and the way that you can predict it's going to work out. And so the ending, I think, was the most disappointing part of this book for me. I was really hoping for it to stop being a cliche at that point, at least, or, you know, and make the ending one of those cool events like that happened throughout that was not cliched. So it disappointed me. Like I said, this is part of a series, but you can just read the first book, and it is a complete story. It has beginning, middle, and end. It doesn't leave you on a ginormous cliffhanger, which is refreshing, especially since I am probably not going to read any more books in this series. I might. I can't say that I won't for sure, but I probably won't. So, have you read The Girl of Fire and Thorns? What did you think? Do you know anything more about this Godstone thing? I did do a little bit of research about the Godstone, and the only thing I can really find is that it might be linked to the Philosopher's Stone, which is associated with changing something for the better. And so that might be the tie-in right there, that it is she changes for the better throughout the book. But then again, that's probably reaching. So if you're interested, go check out this book. If you're not, then don't. And I'll see you again next time on Read, Rant, and Review. Bye.